Hello everybody and welcome back to Bumbershoot, where we're covering life's chaos with humor and heart. I'd like to give a shout out to Pogiliana Wine because dry January's over.
Cheers. Yes.
Thank you, Poggio, for the caraco.
Thank you, February. It felt good though.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it last week too, didn't we, a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
No, we talked about it before we were able to partake.
Right.
So we were saying it wasn't that hard, and
No, it wasn't.
we were able to do it pretty easy. So
I'm shocked.
it's not even like we really missed it, but anyway,
Yeah.
just
At
the
times.
liberty to have it when we want
Yes.
is empowering.
So nice. So nice.
And it's good to do it with friends because then you're kind of held accountable. So when we
Exactly.
might have snuck, we didn't because
No, that made it better, I think.
Yeah.
And just more fun, kind of. You
yeah.
know?
Well, we were cheering each other on,
Yeah,
and we were
supporting
like,
each other. And,
in it together to come back to it and all that.
Yes.
And then the
That was the fun
celebration.
part.
The celebration after it was over. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
from afar for me.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
because
yeah.
Tracy was in Vegas on February
That was-
1st.
Yeah.
So jelly.
That was the hardest time of my dry January was January 30th and 31st in Vegas. Not
you did
recommended, but I did it.
She stayed
That's
up till
amazing.
midnight and then partook.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's tough.
it really is. I mean, even if it was the hardest time, it really was easy all in all.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
thought it was.
I thought so too.
Same.
Yeah, I was happy to know I didn't have cravings or anything
No,
weird.
me either.
So,
I ate more, though.
well, I didn't.
I don't think I did.
I did. Sadly.
Well,
It's all good, though.
I mean, I don't really look at alcohol as a diet thing, but okay. All right, you guys. So we are at the meeting of the man that I am still with today.
Yay.
So, during the, I don't know how many years that I was working at Toyota of Temecula. During I was married to I forgot what I called him.
Second guy.
Yeah, I forget what I called him.
Evidently.
I was told it was a good name to use, and then I couldn't
I
think
don't
of it. It was
remember.
like T-Man or something. I don't know
Tea
what I said.
something.
Anyway, and then I was still there during my divorce, and then I was there for a very, very short time when I met Alessandro. So, kind of how it went down was I used to go get like lunch, just go like on your hour lunch break and go get food and come back. I ate in the office a lot. I liked being at work. It was like, like even in the office today that I'm in, I like being there. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get out. I'm only in there like 4 hours today, but back then I was in there like 8 hours. So anyways, there was a little pie shop in Temecula. If you're from here, lived here at the time, Katie McGuire's pie shop, and it had like pies, but she also did soup and salad and sandwiches and chicken pot pie and things like
Where was
that.
that?
It was in the Tower Plaza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, and back then there was a few things that were different. But Katie McGuire's, I used to go in there and get like soup to go or sandwiches to go. Yeah. And one day I went in there and I was like, I hadn't been in a little bit, I don't know how long. And I'm looking around, I'm like, this is not Katie McGuire's anymore. What is this place? And it was an order at the counter. Katie McGuire's was an order at the counter too. Katie McGuire's, I feel like, used more like pink, and this time it was more of like a blue, if I remember correctly, vibe. And you ordered at the counter, and I was like, oh, it's Italian food. Okay, well that works. I'll just get like lasagna to go. So I did. Ordered, I think 1 or 2 times from the counter. Then the position I was in at Toyota I was human resources, executive assistant, and community relations. So for human resources, we were meeting with our insurance broker. It was the director of operations, myself, our service manager, and then the broker. So they're like, where should we go eat? And I'm like, well, there's this cute little like pie shop. No, I didn't. I said, there's this little Italian deli. That's what I said. There's this little Italian deli just down the street. We could go there and get something casual. It was really more about meeting than it was about eating. And we walked in and I was like, this doesn't totally look like the same place. And then you don't order at the counter. They were seating us like restaurant style, but it was super small. I mean, it was still just that little tiny strip. So I don't know how many square feet for those of you that don't know the location, but it was very small. It had deli cases and then probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 tables. So tiny. Because you used to order at the counter and then sit at the table. But anyway, it turned into a restaurant. So somebody sat us and we sat down and we got bread and this olive tapenade, which was so delicious. I had never had olive tapenade before, and I was just like piling it on my bread and mowing it down. And we got menus, and so we had a waiter. I don't know, he was just a waiter. And so we all like looked at the menu, and I was like, oh, clams with linguine. Yes, I'm getting that. So I ordered that, and my coworkers ordered something else. And then when the clams with linguine came, well, all of our meals came at the same time, but when my meal came, there was another gentleman that came out. They both had heavy accents. And that gentleman, the newer gentleman, is like, can I get you anything else? And I said, oh yeah, can I please get some Parmesan on my seafood or on my linguine? And he says, no, signora, no. And I'm like, yes. Now, remind you, I'm in customer relations. I've had many seminars where the customer's always right. You please the customer.
Right.
So I'm going, yes, I want Parmesan. And he's going, no, signora, you can't put Parmesan on your clams with linguine. And I'm thinking,
Why?
dude, I'm Italian.
Right?
Yes, I do. Put Parmesan on my clams with linguine. Now, mind you, the East Coasters, they do that. And not all of them, but I will say it's definitely something that's more common on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of having this little argument with this man, and I'm thinking to myself, why is he arguing with me?
Yeah, right?
I'm the customer. If I ask for it, why isn't he giving it to me? Well, he was like, please do me a favor. Can you please try it with a very thick Italian accent? Can you please try it first? And if you still want it, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Well, I might be a tad bit hard-headed. And so I was like, oh, fine, I'll try it, but I'm still going to get my Parmesan. So I'm like eating that scoop, and I'm like, yeah, I'll still have Parmesan. And he starts speaking in Italian. You could tell he's irritated. He's asking for the Parmesan, and he comes over and he's grating it on my pasta, but he's just speaking Italian and sounds very annoyed. So I said, thank you so much. And I was like, and so I enjoyed my clams with linguine with Parmesan, and he didn't come back to the table. So our waiter finished taking care of us, and we left, and I was like, this food is to die for. Like, I have not had that good of Italian food in a long time, unless I'm on the East Coast, of course. Shout out to my East Coast Italian family. But it's hard to find that out here in California, especially in Temecula. So anyways, I was like, I've got to bring my dad there when he comes to visit, because he was living back in Rhode Island at the time. So I want to say that was somewhere around fall. And my sister Brandy, who you guys have met, well, the podcast people have met, she was getting married in February. And so my dad was coming out for it. So I was like, oh, cool. When my dad comes out in February, I'll take him to this little place. It's a little hole in the wall, as they say. And so he comes out. Now, this has been a few months later. I hadn't gone back. And I'm like, Dad, there's somewhere I wanted to take you. I can't remember it. And so I'm racking my brain for 7 days, 8 days, whatever it was he was here for. And it was a Saturday, and the next day was Sunday. We were going to go to church, and then Monday he was leaving. So Saturday I was like, where is it I wanted to take you? I can't remember. I think it was like a little hole in the wall, Italian place. It's not coming to me. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly where it is. So it was late lunch, because it was after the lunch rush on a Saturday. And we were hanging out. I think I mentioned Chris and Dino as my friends when I was single.
Yes.
That I was hanging out with a lot of time.
Yeah.
So Dino's a really, he's a pretty tall, very buff, bald fireman. And he was hanging with Dad and I that day. I can't remember what else we were doing that day. So he was coming with me and Dad to the restaurant. And it's significant because in hindsight, I learned Alex's perspective of the lunch. So we went in and I was looking around for the guy that argued with me. But just curious, where is this guy? And I thought, oh my gosh, my dad would love to talk to him, and he's totally Italian and blah blah blah. So we get sat in the very back. There's one table in the back of the restaurant, and we get the olive tapenade. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, you're gonna love this. It's amazing. But we didn't have napkins, so I was like, I'll get them.
Were you hoping to bump into the guy?
Well, I don't know what I was hoping for, but I definitely volunteered to go find them. And literally, no sooner did I turn the corner, and I literally bumped into Alex. And I was like, hi. I said, oh, I brought my dad. He's Italian from the East Coast. I said, come meet him. So he turns the corner, and he sees my dad, but he also sees Dino. So he's like, hi. He was very polite, as he would have been anyways, but talking to my dad. So my dad's talking to him, and I'm looking at him, and his blue eyes, he has dimples, he's got this accent, and I was just like, oh, I was listening. And then he walks away, and I was like, oh my gosh, isn't that cool, Dad? And he's like, yeah, he's a really nice guy. And so he made sure our meal was great and everything was good. And then we leave. Oh, it was actually Sunday lunch, because we did leave from there to go down to church. And I wanted to take my dad to the Rock in San Diego, Miles McPherson. That's a great church if you are interested in San Diego. Super awesome. So I was driving down there on Sundays, every Sunday. So I wanted to take my dad and also Dino, who I don't think he ever went to church back then. So anyways, it was a special time. And so we had a couple other people came with us to church, and we were all crammed in the car. And all my dad talked about all the way down to church was Alex.
Really?
During Alex's conversation with my dad, I learned that he had a daughter in Italy.
Did they speak Italian to each other?
No, my dad's Italian's very just kind of elementary school words. It's not fluent. But I learned he had a daughter in Italy, so I was like, as much as I was like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be an Insta mom. And then he went out back and smoked a cigarette, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a deal breaker. Nope. And then there was something else. I can't remember. Well, he had been married before, so had I, obviously. But I was still trying to keep my list very, very strict.
Right. So was it love at first sight?
Well, Alex will never listen to this. So no, it wasn't necessarily, because the first sight was when he was putting Parmesan on my clams with the
when he was mad at you.
So yeah, but that second time I was definitely wooed by him. But the funny thing is, my dad's like, oh my gosh, he was drooling all over you the whole lunch. And I'm like, Dad, he didn't even make eye contact with me. And he's like, yes, he did. He totally was in love with you. Now, meanwhile, even though Dina was just a friend, it's still kind of awkward to have your dad talking about this guy that's drooling all over you with your guy friend in the car. So sorry, Dino. But yeah, so Dad talked about him, and then I was like, I came back thinking, was he drooling all over me? Was he interested? So I thought for I don't know, a couple weeks how I could accidentally go back in, or find a way to go back into the restaurant and really put that to the test. So I had given my notice at Toyota, and the girls are like, we want to take you, the girls in the office were like, we want to take you to lunch. Where do you want to go? And I was like, well, there's this really cute little Italian place. So they're like, yeah, let's go. One of the girls was my roommate at the time, and so she's like, oh yeah, we were. So we went in, and we only had an hour. It was my last day, so it didn't really matter with me, but for the girls, they only had 1 hour. So we walk into the restaurant, and it was totally dead. So he seats us in the front, and then he was serving. So I don't know if it was just a slow day that he didn't have the other waiter, but he was serving. So he was managing and serving. So I will say that it's hard to do both. That's what I'm going to say with so much grace.
Right.
But it was funny because he started getting busy on that lunch. And so everything was like a rush. And Alex he's very, he's not delicate. So things are getting slammed on the table and then he's running away. But the funniest thing was every time he came to our table, my girlfriend, who was my roommate at the time but also worked at Toyota, she would ask him for something. And if you've ever been a waiter or waitress or server, I guess you say now, if you've ever been a server, you know that is the most annoying thing when someone at the table, every time you go there, they ask for something else. So that is my tip for all, like, in consideration of your server, make sure you think of everything you need in one trip, because every time you have to go back, it just takes so much time.
Right.
So every time he would leave and she'd go, can I have a glass of ice? And then he'd have to come back. Can I have a straw? And then he'd come back.
Oh, God.
And we ordered like salads and then our like meals. And the salads came like after 45 minutes. And so we were like, and the girls were like, we have to get back. We can't wait. And I said, well, let me just ask for it to go. So anyway, wait, pause, back up a second. So what was happening, every time he would come, he would like slam something down. So one time I said, oh, you're like a bowl in a china cabinet. And he's like, a what? And a what? Now, mind you, super thick Italian accent. You know, we have a lot of slang that they don't know, and same vice versa. Yeah. So he was like, a what? And a what? And I'm like, okay, never mind. And then he came back and he said something. I go, oh, it's like between a rock and a hard place. And he's like, huh? So then I said, the next time he came back, I was like, oh no, then Danielle, she had asked for like the fifth thing, and he goes, goodness. I'm beginning to hate you.
Oh.
And she was like, we were like, what? He literally said it out loud, I'm beginning to hate you. And we started dying, and we thought it was so funny. But he's like that, blatant and honest, and especially back then, because you don't, you know, well, come to find out, he hadn't been in America that long.
But was it in a funny way, or?
Well, no, it wasn't. He was serious.
But he can get away with saying that, I think, because he's pretty bubbly, and like you could probably tell he was flustered.
Well, you could tell he was flustered 100%, and it was funny because who says that?
Yeah,
and they're not saying it like, I mean, he was saying it with a message like, you're driving me crazy. And how many people really want to say that? And they just
everybody probably. Very true. Yeah.
So anyway, I go up to the counter. And I said, I'm sorry, but can we get our food to go? And he goes, no, it's coming right now. And I said, well, the girls only have an hour and we're going to be late. We have to get it to go. And he's like, no, it's coming. I said, no, it has to be to go. I said, I'm so sorry. And he goes, I'm sorry. He said, no charge. And I'm like, okay, so to know Alex and I today, I would be like, okay, great. No, not always. But he is not one to give anything away because he knows the value of his food and his hard work. So to think back on how he's like, you know, you don't pay. I was like, no, it's okay. We're getting the food. We just can't eat it here.
Right.
So he goes, okay, well, you come back for coffee, just me and you.
Oh, nice.
And I said, oh, I don't drink coffee.
Charity.
And he goes, okay, Starbucks is right next door, hot chocolate. And I go, oh, I don't like chocolate either. Now I do like hot chocolate, but I was playing a little hard to get. And he goes, okay, well, come back. Just come back when you can.
He's trying.
I know he was. So I was like, okay. And I kind of walked out playing it cool. And I get in the car and I'm like, he asked me back for coffee. Yay. And the girls are like, oh. So then that's when I was thinking about how to come back. Because I didn't like coffee and I didn't like, so that was the time that I was trying to figure out how to come back, not the time before. So how it ended up happening was however long after that, and I don't remember all those deets, sorry, but I have a younger sister and I was babysitting her for the weekend. I think she was 6 at the time. So I'm like, do you like Italian food? She's like, no. I'm like, oh gosh, you sound like me. She's like, no. And I'm like, come on, everybody eats spaghetti.
Right? Spaghetti.
She's like, Like, whatever. She was 6. I was like, we're going to eat Italian food. So I went to the center and I was walking around holding her hand, like walking around the center, hoping he would like see me and then like say something. He never did. I don't know if he saw me, but he never said anything. So finally I was like, okay, we're going to go eat Italian. So we went in. Again, it was quiet. There wasn't a lot of people. We sat down and he started talking and flirting and talking to my little sister. And then it got busy. And he was so busy. And so we sat there. I, of course, was not in a hurry. So we sat there through the rush until it slowed down again. And then he pulled up a chair and started talking to us. And then he took my little sister in the back to show her the kitchen and came back out. And so that year, what year was that? It's like 24 years ago.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how old were you at that point? Like your mid-20s? Mid-20s?
Yeah, I was mid to late. So I was probably past, I was like 25, 26, I think. So yeah, what year would that have been?
Like,
it would be
98?
It was, I know when it
99?
was. It was 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I know that because I know when we, hello, do the math in my head. Okay, so it was 2000, like the later part of 2000. No, it wasn't. It was early 2000. Yes, it was March. So it was super like cold and we all knew there was like the biggest storm of the century was expected for like the next day. So he was saying, it's supposed to be this big storm, da 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 da. He's like, do you want to come over for wine and a fire? And I was like, oh.
To his house?
Yeah, like the first date, I'm like, we could go see a movie. And he's like, So anyway, we didn't totally decide. He said, well, give me your number and I'll call you and we'll figure something out. So I was like, okay. So I had my little sister write my phone number down, give it to him. And the next day, I thought he was going to call me that night because we didn't have texting back then. I thought he was going to call me that night. He didn't. The next day, I'm waiting all freaking day. He does not call until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was like, I got so excited when he called. So literally sitting around waiting, like did not do anything, thinking I want to be ready. Like I don't know what he's going to ask me to do.
Right.
So he calls me and he said, do you want to go to dinner where I used to work in Orange County? And so I was like, oh, sure. So he said, okay, I'll pick you up at, I don't know, maybe he said 7 because he usually eats about 8 or between 8:30, sometimes 9. So
that's late.
Yeah, that's Italian style for sure. Especially restaurant owner Italian style. They don't eat early.
Yeah.
They can't eat during the rush.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said he'd pick me up at a certain time. Well, now I'm waiting for him to pick me up at that time. Totally ready. I don't hear from him. He's not there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did he stand me up? Where is this guy? I call, but I can't get through to him. So he finally rings the doorbell. And I answer the door and he's wearing like, it was like our 90s prep, like look. Like, I mean, Europeans have fashion nailed, right? So whatever we were, whatever, it stands alone. But to me, like the sweater around your shoulders that's like tied.
Oh, yeah.
He was wearing that
It's
with
preppy.
a button-up shirt and and loafers and he had a Chrysler minivan, a white Chrysler minivan.
What?
Yeah.
I picture the outfit. I don't picture him in a minivan.
I don't picture him in a minivan either.
Yeah, well, I didn't picture that either. Not that it was a deal breaker, but it was definitely something I didn't expect. And
It's probably comfortable.
Well,
so I'm like, he goes, I'm so sorry I'm late. He's like, I was so nervous that I was sweating too much and I had to turn around and go home and change.
No.
that's cute.
Today, do I believe that? No, because he's late to everything. So I'm sure he just wasn't worried about
Maybe
being
he
on
was
time.
nervous. Maybe you made him nervous.
Well, for sure he was nervous. I mean, everybody's nervous on a first date.
And you did play hard to get.
But I'm saying that I don't think he was on his way and then turned around and went back. Let's just say that. But whatever. So anyway, it was cute to make, even if it was made up, it was cute.
Yeah,
So we're like,
I agree.
okay, so we get in the car and I thought to myself, I had only dated the one guy since my divorce. And so I was like, I'm just going to lay this on the table because it's you're in or you're out. Like, I know that I'm kind of a lot. So my home was in Winchester, which, if you know now, it's like French Valley. Well, French Valley, not Winchester, but it is the city of Winchester. It's not so far out anymore, but back then there was like barely any street lights. There was no development. We were the only housing tract out there in the middle of nowhere, basically. And he was kind of like, where does she live and where am I going? And it's funny to hear his side, which you probably never will, because he'll never come on this. But anyway, we didn't even get to the freeway heading to Orange County when I told him that I had been married twice before, and he kind of like slammed on the brakes. And I'm like, but you've been married too, right? Because you have a daughter. And he's like, yes. So I was like, okay, well, you've been married and have a daughter. I've been married twice. We're kind of even. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a kid. Like, my exes are done and gone with.
Yeah, that's right.
Yours has to stick around because you guys have a kid. So I didn't feel like it was that bad. But it does not look good at first time out for a relationship. You know, like for a dependable relationship situation, you know. But so we kind of got past that. I explained everything to him. We got kind of past that and started talking about my family and East Coast and all that stuff. So we go to this restaurant, and I think it was called Valentina's in Mission Viejo, but I don't know if it still exists, and I could be wrong about those details, but I think that's what it was called. And we went in. It was a Monday night, so a lot of restaurants are closed on Mondays because it's a slow night. But they weren't closed, but we were literally, I think we were the only ones in there for most of the time. There might have been another table that came and went, but they also had live music. So they had one man playing, like, I don't know what it was, but it was Italian music on an instrument, and he would sing. And so it was very romantic. And the owner came out and, of course, knew Alex because he worked there, and told him, like, Alex said, just in Italian, like, just bring us whatever. So you got kind of that experience, like chef's choice experience. And then he asked me to dance on the dance floor. So
what? How romantic!
As you can imagine,
that's a sweet first date.
It is, and it was very, yes. He wooed me. So it was. I was very charmed, and
were you so in at that point?
Well, you could say that. Then he was able to get me back to his apartment, but don't get excited. Wow. I did not do what you think I might have done.
The deed?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
We stayed up late talking, and then I wanted to sleep on the couch because I wanted to keep my boundaries. He's like, just come sleep in bed. I mean, I won't touch you. Just come sleep in bed. And so I was like, okay. So we did sleep in the same bed that night, but we didn't do anything besides kiss. So I don't know if he'd be bragging about that, but I'm happy to say that that's...
You were a good girl.
What happened, yeah. So the next morning he took me home, and then I, of course, had to thank him for a great date. So I had to go back down to the restaurant and bring him a thank you card.
Aw, that's sweet.
Sorry, my lingering cough when I laugh. Wash that down with Catarato. Yeah, so I found a reason to go in there. And so he was like happy to see me and had me sit at a front table. And then he wouldn't let me go. No, don't go. No, don't go. Where you gotta go? Don't go. So I sat there through the whole dinner rush. Actually, I went over to Painted Earth. So if you like a painting little place, if you're here, you know, but there's a million of them everywhere. And so I went over there and painted. Well, that became a thing because he's funny. Alex is funny about, like, I swear he has separation anxiety because he really likes people. He doesn't want people to leave unless it's the end of the day and he's tired and he's at home and he wants everyone out while he goes to sleep. But like, he really, or at least he used to really have like this attachment where he didn't, why you gotta go? Where you gotta go? What do you gotta do?
Yeah.
And he would be like that all the time. And so he would convince me to stay, but he would get busy. So then I would go over and paint. It cost me a lot of money.
Yeah, that's not cheap.
It's not cheap. And I had quit my job at Toyota, and I had a 401k, and we had sold the house, so I had some money. So I wasn't really jumping right into another job. And then I did. I worked for the Press Enterprise for like 3.5 months selling ads. Ugh, I am not a commission sales girl.
I did that before.
I did.
It's old real fast.
Yes, and having to meet quotas and...
Yeah.
And all the creepy people out there that you talk to that are...
Well, and I had a competitor as one of my accounts, so I couldn't tell him. And then he found out, and he said something to me. He's like, you're dating Alessandro from Gourmet Italia? And I was like, yeah, but it has nothing to do with like selling ad space at all. And he was like, he was not happy.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a little hard. And anyway, I didn't like what I was doing anyway, and I didn't like having to meet these quotas and stuff, so I didn't last very long. But I will say, I was working there during 9/11. So that morning, Alex and I tell two different stories, but because he'll never listen to the podcast, I get to tell my story because I don't know why his perspective is so different. But for me, I was getting ready that morning for work, and I always woke up to watching the news. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, like, you know, I would turn on the television, and then maybe it would go to like a television show or something. But I had been in the bathroom doing my hair and stuff, and I looked out, I don't know for what reason, and I saw a plane going into the building, and I thought it had changed to a movie on my TV because I would not have thought that was happening.
Right.
And so I was like confused, and then I turned my blow dryer off, and I'm watching, and I'm realizing, wait, this is the news. Wait, this is really happening. And so I called him. I think he was still sleeping at the time. I called my work. Nobody was answering. So I finished getting ready, and I headed out. And as I was driving into town, it was like a ghost town. It was like COVID, like that day that after COVID and everybody got locked in their houses. Well, this was kind of the same. And no one was locked in. They were just glued to their televisions, and no one knew what to do because nobody knew who would get hit next or where it was coming. And we live close to LA. So you just didn't know. So anyway, I'm driving around, and I'm like, and then I finally get word from, so we're a newspaper, so they were reporting, but from home, so really nobody was there. So then I got a hold of Alex, and I went over to his apartment, and we sat on the couch and just glued to the TV watching what was going on. So yeah, that's significant because that was when we started dating. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's significant for its own right, but I'm saying in our timeline, like that's when we were dating. So anyways, from then on, I didn't go a day without seeing him. So we went on our first date in March, and then come October, my papa, who's the proud Sicilian, remember him? Mm-hmm. I got to call my papa like 2 weeks into dating Alex, and I called him and I said, Papa, I want you to meet this Sicilian guy that I'm dating, and I'm so excited to introduce them. And so, but they don't really speak fluent Italian, my grandma and grandpa, so he kind of struggled. Well, he met my papa over the phone once, and then talked to my grandma a couple times. But my papa died March, so I started dating Alex. He died in March. 2 weeks after I started dating Alex. And I was like, I had to go back. So Alex was so sweet. He's like, my girlfriend was taking me to the airport, and he's like, do you want me to put like a little food thing together for you for the plane? I was like, oh, it's okay. No, that's okay. Sweet. And then when I came back, he was like, we need to go back and see your Italian family. Like, what if something else happens? Like, let's go back and visit them. And I was loving that he was all about it. Yeah, it was really sweet. So anyway, but my papa meant the world to me, and that was a really hard loss really early on in our relationship. But it was also cool because it was almost like Papa had something to do with like me meeting a Sicilian man. So anyways, but we had been dating for a while, and there was some hiccups. I think I might have mentioned that there was a gal who I think thought she was dating him, or maybe she was dating him. And when I would be hanging out at the restaurant, he was always like kind of paranoid that she would show up. And then one time she did. And so he's like, go hide in the back. And so I ran to hide in the back. And then I was like, I went out the back. So at the time, Vaughn's was right there. It's not that anymore, but I went out the back and I went into Vaughn's, and I did have a cell phone. It just didn't text. And I was like, what am I doing? Why am I running and hiding? Like, this is bull.
Yes.
So I called the restaurant, and the kid that worked salads at the time, I'm like, Trevor, can you please tell Alex that when he clears that up and that is no longer an issue, he can call me.
Right.
And so I went home that night, and I didn't answer his calls for a couple days. Not that he was he called maybe once, but I was like, no, you didn't resolve it that fast. But I think it was 2 or 3 days later he called, and I answered, and he's like, I totally took care of that situation. you'll never have to hide
good.
again. I go, well, I'm not ever hiding again. But like that knee-jerk reaction when someone says, run and hide, you just do it. Like, you're going to duck. So I was like, oh no, that is not happening. So, she didn't take it well, but she ended up finding out about me and like about that. And she was older than him. So I think she understood like why he was picking me, probably just for age alone. But yeah, so anyway, that was the chunk of us meeting. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. So then after a few months, I feel like, I don't know if things were settling in or I don't know, but I was like, I can't fall in love again and marry again and not have really taken time for myself, which I had taken some time, but...
About how long did you take in between the older guy that you dated?
I don't know. Well, I'll say it wasn't more than a year for sure.
Oh, that's kind of a long time.
But it was probably a few months. But it's still like, I felt like being married twice and married the first time at 18, I needed more time. So I said to myself, my dad was still living in Rhode Island, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to take a month. I'm not working right now. I don't have anything holding me here. I'm not going to let a guy hold me here. Why don't I go out to Rhode Island, see what I think? Maybe I've never lived there. Maybe I want to live there. Maybe there's opportunity. Or if nothing else, I'm just going to commit 1 month to go there. Not come back early if he begs me, not alter this. Just commit a month to going away and seeing how I feel. So I did the month and I came back, and so his dad happened to be visiting when I got back. So when I went over to see him, I forgot to tell you about that.
What?
The time when the girls from work and I were there. So the first time I went before, like when he asked me for coffee.
Yeah.
So we were sitting there. This is such a huge part of the story. We were sitting there and this man walks in. He is super dark skinned and older gentleman, wore pitch black sunglasses, and he went and stood against a wall like right across from us. And he's leaning against the wall with an Italian newspaper in front of his face, but every so often he'd drop it down and then put it back up. So he had sunglasses. Well, he had sunglasses on, so it wasn't totally obvious, but we were the only things in front of him.
Oh, okay.
And he couldn't read the newspaper with blackout sunglasses on either. He wasn't reading.
Oh, I think he was, but he wasn't smiling is the thing. He was looking at us and not cracking a smile. And you got us looking like, three blondes. Hi. And no, he wasn't smiling at all. And Alex running back and forth. You saw him like once or twice stop to talk to him. And I'm like, you guys, I think that guy's mafia.
Oh my God.
I mean, Alex is Italian. This is an Italian restaurant. I bet that guy's mafia. Now, my family in Pakis, there is definitely, so I have no immediate family members connected. I had one aunt, my dad's aunt, that worked for the mafia. Pakis, we're not just naming names, and one of his cousins worked for them as well. So they were protected. So our family was protected by the mafia, but they weren't connected as in, I mean, obviously something could have happened to the two that worked for them, but not the extended family. Mm-hmm. And Alex is very intrigued by the mafia, come to find out, which Sicily, where he's from, it's still alive and well today. And I know it's sensitive to talk about it, but I'm not really saying anything.
No.
But anyway, so I was like, it's a real thing. So I was thinking this guy was mafia. And come to find out it was Alex's dad. And the reason he kept looking at us is because Alex was like, that's my next victim. I don't know if he used those words, but that's why he kept checking us out. But the funny thing is he didn't smile. But I will say that I'm very close to him and he adores me. Like we have a really great relationship.
So he didn't introduce you at that point at all?
No, I didn't know it was his dad till later.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I was saying, so when I came back, his dad was at the apartment when I came over, so I got to meet him. Then that's when I realized who it was, and I was like, I came back really missing him and wanting to stay in a relationship with him. So we went and we did a little picnic. This would never happen today, but we did a little picnic up in like La Cresta area.
Oh, check that out.
Oh, shucks, that scared me.
Sorry, me
it's
too.
Okay.
It's my phone.
Tracy's phone. We're good.
It was so romantic back in the day.
I think I planned it, but no, he was romantic. He was very romantic.
Sounds romantic.
One time we were on the phone and he was like, go out your front door and look up at the moon. I want to look at the moon at the same time as you. And I walked out and he was standing there.
Aww.
That was very cute.
That's cute.
That was really cute.
Love that.
So anyway, it was not very long after I got back that we went back to the restaurant where we had gone on our first date. And we were sitting in the booth and we had the same kind of chef's choice experience dinner. But the bread came and smashed in the bread was a band with diamonds in it. So in America we do the engagement ring, right? It's the diamond. But he had got, so they don't necessarily do like engagement rings. They just do their wedding bands there.
Okay.
So he was trying to like kind of do it our way, but his way. So he got a band with some diamonds in them and it was smashed sideways. Like, so I'm looking at the bread and I just see this like circle in the bread. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like looking at me smiling.
Oh my gosh.
So I take it out. Now I don't know what it is.
Right.
I don't know that it's an engagement ring because it doesn't look like our traditional. So I'm like, what is this? This is so beautiful. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like trying to figure out what is this for?
Yes.
And so then he like takes it and he puts it on my left hand. I go, is this an engagement ring? And he's like, yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, are you asking me to marry you? And he's like, yeah. So
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh. And so it was very cute because it was his way and his style.
So did he not get down on one knee and all that?
He did it.
It's different.
He did it. But we did dance again to the musician. And then that year, that was in, I think, end of October, November. And then for New Year's that year, we celebrate New Year's at the restaurant. All the restaurant customers learned that we got engaged and everyone's like, oh, how do you do it? And then everyone's asking, did we get on one knee? And I was like, no. So at New Year's that year, everyone's like, he's getting on one knee tonight. And so he's like, oh, okay. So we got on one knee on New Year's and asked me to marry him on one knee. Yeah, so that was very cute. So, yeah, so that brings us to our engagement, but I'm going to go ahead and end it there. But that's not all. We'll finish up all that beginning of the love life of Alessandro and Charity.
Can't wait.
So, but yeah, it was good times. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for being here. Thank you guys for being here, and thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us, Bumbershoot Charity on Instagram, and follow us on all the podcast platforms. Thank you to our new listeners. Shout out to you guys. It's been fun to talk to people that are listening and kind of get their input and see what they're enjoying about it. So keep bringing the input. We love it, and we're excited to keep carrying on over here, Bumbershoot, where we're covering life's chaos with humor and heart. Goodbye.
Bye.